begin with the latest executive shakeup at troubled U.S. aircraft giant Boeing. The company's CEO and other top leaders will step down after a string of safety issues blamed on cost-cutting and quality control lapses. Owen Fairclough has more.
How much will the departure of Boeing's chief executive help the besieged aircraft maker recover from its crisis? Dave Calhoun's announcement follows a string of safety and quality control issues, mostly involving Boeing's 737 MAX. Wall Street appeared to approve, Boeing's stock edging higher when trading began on Monday. But the company has lost around a quarter of its market value since January, when an Alaska Airlines 737-9 MAX door panel, missing 4 bolts, blew out mid-air. The 737 MAX's reputation had already been badly tarnished after 2 fatal crashes within months of each other in late 2018 and early 2019. And when regulators discovered a litany of safety and quality control lapses, they grounded 171 737-9 MAX aircraft worldwide. Last month, they gave Boeing 90 days to produce a quality control plan so it can resume full production. And the head of Irish budget carrier Ryanair says passengers will pay the price for that backlog in new aircraft deliveries to airlines.
If you have constrained supply, strong demand, I think it's inevitable that you're going to see airfares bump up again this summer. I think between 5 and 10%.
If shareholders are welcoming Boeing's decision to clean house with other top executives following Calhoun's lead, experts say one of America's most storied companies now needs to restore both its customers and passenger confidence. Owen Fairclough, CGTN, Washington.
And let's take a closer look at the embattled manufacturer and its CEO's impending exit. Joining us to discuss that is Addison Schonland. He's a consultant and analyst for AirInsight Group. Addison, thanks so much for joining us today. I'm wondering, how surprised are you that Calhoun is stepping down as CEO? Why now, and why not immediately? The announcement comes less than 3 months after the Alaska Airlines fiasco and just 3 years after he replaced Muhlenberg, his predecessor.
I think that it's been expected by several people most people in the industry. Why now, I think, is because last week airline customers requested a meeting with the Boeing board, and that meeting was to exclude Mr. Calhoun. I think that was the signal that customers' patience had reached their end.
And in your opinion, sir, how necessary was this overhaul in management at the top to stem the bleeding? And what does his replacement now need to focus on to help right the ship? Since the start of the year, Boeing stock is down by about 25%, and airline partners are frustrated over production timelines and quality concerns.
I think ultimately it was necessary that there needed to be a change, and the change needed to happen at the top. I think it's a consensus opinion amongst most analysts that this was necessary, and hopefully the new person coming in is going to focus on labor relations, keep them stable, quality and delivery on time, because customers want that. In other words, there's going to have to be a turn from stock market and investor focus to customers and employees, in an internal look as opposed to an external look, to turn this around.
Which brings me to my next point, because this was a company that once prided itself on engineering excellence well ahead of profits. Now they face cumulative losses of about $30 billion, and customers, important ones like Ryanair, say they spend 48 hours checking every single Boeing plane that comes into them for errors or omissions. What has changed over the years at the company?
I think that the general consensus would be that when McDonnell Douglas and Boeing merged, the culture changed. There was a focus on financial reporting and financial engineering as opposed to aerospace engineering. And there was move to take profits, and stock buybacks was where the money was put to use, rather than R&D and developing new products. I think that's generally what people would say.
And sir, how big a boon is all of this, in your opinion, to rival Airbus? Because United says the Alaska incident was the straw that broke the camel's back, so to speak. And instead of looking to Boeing's MAX 10 planes, which face certification issues, the airline is now considering buying Airbus aircraft.
That's a very good question. I think it's important for people to understand that there's a duopoly. Boeing and Airbus together account for over 90% of new airplane deliveries. They need each other. For Airbus to be optimal and play its best game, it needs a strong Boeing. And the same the other way around. The reason Airbus is strong today is because Boeing is a 100-year-old company and has always been such a strong player. Airbus had to up its game. McDonnell Douglas couldn't, so they had to ultimately merge with Boeing. Game theory tells us you need two strong players in a duopoly. So there might be a bit of a win here for Airbus in terms of but it's a very specific thing. The Airbus 321 replaces what used to be a 757. You could argue that Boeing should have focused on the MAX 10 earlier than they did, maybe. But the bottom line is that the Airbus advantage is very much a niche, one segment of the entire market. And I think Airbus would be the first to say they want a strong Boeing because it's much better for everybody.
Yeah, and they can't even keep up with all the demand just for their own customers. So brings me to my final question for you. Is there too much of a duopoly existing between Boeing and Airbus? Should there be more competition in this space, especially as passenger travel skyrockets?
That would be a great idea, to have more competition. So who would the potential ones be? Embraer in Brazil and Comac in China. But from where they are to get to the same level of production, for example, Airbus and Boeing individually produce more airplanes in 1 month than those two companies do in a year. The gap that they have to leap is massive. We're talking 20, 25, 30 years maybe before those companies can reach that level of production.
All right, we will have to leave it there. Thank you so much, Addison Schonland, for your time today.
Thank you.